The day I found out I was pregnant was the day my real life began. Not the life everyone saw, but the one where everything changed forever. I come from a large family of eight, the last born, the baby everyone adored. I was the light of the house, born when my siblings were already adults, some even married, some living far away. I lacked absolutely nothing. If love and comfort could be bottled, I had it all to myself. My parents raised us in a deeply Christian home where holiness wasn't just a goal, it was a lifestyle. Church, school, home. That was the cycle of my life. I wasn't wild or rebellious, but I longed for more. I didn't want to disrespect my roots, but I wanted to explore the world, to breathe beyond the tight rules. I wasn't bad. I just didn't want to be caged. Even as a child, I was wise beyond my years. At 12, I noticed everyone in my family had bank accounts. I begged my mother to open one for me in her name, and she agreed. I used my number, got an ATM card, and started managing it like a boss. I loved having my own money. I saved like crazy because I never had to spend much. They gave me everything. And then came him, a boy from church, charming, sweet, always smiling at me like he saw something in me the world didn't. I ignored him at first because I knew my mom would never approve. But as time passed and the attention didn't stop, my heart opened. Soon we were seeing each other in secret. My parents were busy with mission trip, lost in church work, and I became invisible in my own home. He visited when they were gone. We laughed, shared food, watched movies. We never planned for it to go too far. But love, curiosity, and naivety are a dangerous mix. One night, we crossed a line we could never return from. He slept over just once. We were so lost in that moment, two teenagers thinking love would shield us from consequences. I should have known better. Weeks later, my world froze. I missed my period. I panicked. I did everything I thought was right after that night. I thought I had protected myself, but I guess I wasn't as smart as I thought. When the test turned positive, my entire body went cold. I was only 15. I was someone's baby. How could I be carrying a baby of my own? I stared at myself in the mirror and hated what I saw. Not just because I was pregnant, but because of the shame I would bring to my family. My parents weren't just good people, they were examples, pillars of the church, loved and respected. I couldn't destroy that, I just couldn't. I told him, my boyfriend. He wept like a boy lost in the dark. What are we going to do? He kept asking. I told him not to worry, that I had a plan. Normally, I'm always smart. A bold one that didn't involve him. I didn't want to take the risk of him snitching to his religious parents or spilling under pressure. I needed to be invisible. I told him I was going to leave for good. I wouldn't tell him where. I needed him to trust me and let go. I had thought this through. I stayed 4 more months at home, quietly growing a child while shrinking in fear. I used that time to gather money. I told my family I had projects to do, school fees to settle, books to buy. They gave me as always. They never suspected a thing. I tied wrappers tightly around my waist to hide my belly. Thankfully, I had no signs, no morning sicknesses, no changes, no signs. God was forming a life inside me, just silence and pain. The day I left home, my parents laid hands on me and prayed. They thought I was going off to university. They didn't know their baby was running away. I left a letter on my bed. Don't look for me. I love you all too much to bring shame. I will come back, just not yet. And then I vanished. I went to Bayelsa, far from Anambra, far from eyes that knew me. I believed life there would be cheaper and quieter. I planned to sleep at the park for the first few nights. I was ready to suffer. But the park turned me away. They didn't allow strangers to stay, so I found a cheap hotel and cried myself to sleep. The next day, I withdrew every kobo I had. I rented a tiny one-room apartment and tried to breathe again. That room became my prison and my sanctuary. I wanted to open a shop, but I didn't even know how to start. So I began looking for jobs. Anything. I was pregnant, alone, and terrified, but I was determined to survive. Eventually, I got a job as a sales girl in a supermarket. I told them I just need to keep busy. But every night I called up on that thin mattress, holding my growing belly, whispering prayers to God. Please don't abandon me. I know I messed up, but please don't turn your face away. The pain came slowly at first, then all at once. I wasn't just physical, it was emotional. The loneliness, the fear, the weight of what was coming. I was only a girl, a broken girl with a brave face. But the fight had only just begun. The first few weeks in Bayelsa, I survived in fear. Not food, not strength, just pure fear. Fear kept me moving, kept me waking up every day to find work, to hold my body like a treasure no one else wanted. The one-room apartment had no fan, no bed frame, just a thin mattress that barely kept me off the floor. I could cry quietly at night, not wanting the neighbors to hear. I didn't want questions, I didn't want pity. I thought leaving home would give me peace, but peace didn't live here. The job at the supermarket didn't last. After a month, the manager called me into his office. We like you, but you look tired. Customers have been complaining that you work too slow. You are always sitting. I tried to smile. I'm just not feeling well, sir. He looked at my belly. My mistake was thinking I had hidden it well. You're pregnant, he said, voice flat. You should be resting, not working. And that was it. No warning, no compassion, just you can't work here anymore. I walked home that day with tears running down my face, the sun beating down like it had a personal vendetta against me. I had saved nothing. What I earned had gone to food, water, and buying small baby things at the market in secret. I sat in my room that night and stared at the ceiling. This is punishment, I whispered. This is what I deserve. The hunger started soon after, not just the usual kind, the baby kind. The kind that drains your strength and makes your head spin when you stand up too fast. I began rationing Gary, one small cup for a whole day, soaked in water, no sugar, just a feel something in my stomach. There were days I only drank water and prayed. The neighbors didn't talk to me. They stared. A young girl, no husband, no parents, barely getting bigger every day. I knew that they were thinking that. One woman once knocked on my door and said, "You better go back to your people before you die here. This city doesn't pity anybody." I didn't respond. I just shut the door softly and cried. One night I fell. I had gotten up to pee. The light bulb had burned out days ago and I couldn't afford a new one. I tripped over the edge of the mat and fell straight on my side. The pain shot through me like lightning. I screamed. Nobody came, nobody. I dragged myself to the wall and leaned back, holding my belly, begging God not to take the child. Please, I've lost everything already. Don't let me lose this one too. I didn't sleep that night. I sat up all night watching my belly, waiting for a sign that the baby was still there. A kick, a flutter, anything. Hours passed, then thumb. It was faint, but it was there. The baby kicked. I laughed and cried at the same time. I was still a mother. But the body wasn't done betraying me. By my 8th month, my feet were swollen, my waist throbbed with pain. I could no longer bend, I barely walked. Every step felt like dragging rocks tied to my bones. I tried begging on the street one day, just once. I sat with a plate near the bus stop, but the looks I got, one woman spat beside me, shameless girl. You think it's easy to raise children without anything? I packed my things and never returned to that spot. I started to wonder if running away was the biggest mistake of my life. Maybe I should have stayed and faced my parents' wrath. Maybe disgrace is in their arms wouldn't hurt less than slow death in this strange land. But it was too late to go back, too late, too ashamed. I was now closer to childbirth than ever, alone, jobless, hungry, and afraid. There were moments I hated my baby. I hated the heaviness, the pain, the isolation. I hated the boy who had held me and said, I'll always be here. Where was he now? Probably in church, lifting holy hands while I was here rotting with a child he helped create. Then one night, my water broke, and I knew the real war was about to begin. Why did I make such decisions? Why did I put my parents first before myself? I can't bear this anymore, I said to myself while in pain. I shouldn't be born into a home that don't have any fault, and I was the faulty one. Depression came right when I was in labor. I started shouting in my room. Before now, I had registered at a hospital and also paid a nurse to keep me in check because I was afraid of losing my baby. I was very particular about having a healthy child and a safe delivery, so I needed a good hospital and a nurse I could always call. My neighbor heard me shouting in the night and rushed to where I was. Her son was also around and he is a keke driver. They both carried me and rushed out. I was in pain, but I kept telling them to call my nurse. I had a little Nokia touch phone. Since I had thrown my SIM card away, sold my phone, and got a new, smaller phone and SIM card to avoid my parents calling me. They quickly called the nurse and thank God she responded and directed them to the hospital. I had no issues there because I was already registered. The pain of giving birth dawned on me. I was devastated. I couldn't think straight. I started shouting and saying, I deserve every pain I'm getting. I brought this upon myself. Nobody told me to take this route. I brought it upon myself. I've never blamed anyone for my mistake. I did this on my own and I hated myself for it. The nurses kept telling me I would be fine and I should stop blaming myself for anything. The deed had already been done and I should just embrace it with joy. The doctor was just the best. He kept saying I was the best human he had ever met and that I shouldn't blame myself. I just got the love I needed at that moment, the kind my parents had always given me back then. My neighbor and her son didn't move an inch. They were there waiting for the baby. I was in pain, but the tears were more because of the love I received. I began to calm down and focus on the baby. If people were this loving, life would have been easy. Since I left my home, I had never gotten this love from anyone. And I craved it because I was still my parents' baby, just that I made a big mistake. The doctor never left my side. The nurses treated me like a special girl because I wasn't even a woman yet. I was just 16 years old, about to give birth. I was fully ready and entered the labor room and gave birth to the most beautiful baby on earth. I cried and cried, not even knowing why I was crying. Maybe I had too many tears that needed to be released, or I just wanted to be loved again and again. My neighbor was no so happy and said she was sorry for not coming close to me before and that no one should be judged because of a mistake. No one is perfect. The doctor said I could stay there for a week so they could monitor me because I was a bit malnourished. My neighbor kept bringing food during this period. The nurses were just the best, and the doctor always got something for me whenever he came around. At that point, I felt the hospital was my home. Funny, right? I never wanted to go back home because I felt I would be abandoned again. I became so close to the doctor but remained very careful and afraid not to make another mistake. I left the hospital after a week and everything was going well. I loved my baby so much and my neighbor and her son were always there for me. The doctor visited me one day. We were so close by now. He said he just loved the fact that I saw the mistake I made and was ready to correct it and not blame anyone. He asked what kind of business I could do, and I said, let me start with the fruit business. I hadn't done such before, but I trusted myself to bring the best out of anything I did. When he left, I looked at my baby and realized she was the blessing I needed. Right from the labor room, she brought peace to my soul. Ever since I gave birth to her, I have never lacked anything. I began to love myself more and never thought about my mistake. I named her Blessing. Blessing was all I needed. My child brought everything I was looking for: peace, love, care, food, people, and money, of course. The doctor gave me the money to start up my business. I started selling fruits and I took care of the rest. This business brought me money that I left my one room and moved into a well-furnished, self-contained apartment. I was getting healthy and blessed. 2 years later, I was living happily in my little world. My life wasn't perfect. Some days I got tired of hustling and taking care of my child because it was overwhelming. Most times my baby would be crying and I would be crying as well because I didn't even know what was wrong. I would always call my doctor and he would come through for me. Life wasn't so rosy and I missed my parents so much. I knew I made a mistake, but I told myself it was time to face my parents. I kept asking myself if I ran away because I couldn't face them or if it was because I wanted to protect their image. I just had to go back to them. The day they came, I had rehearsed my lines and approached, but I didn't know what to expect. I dropped my daughter off with my doctor friend. He stays close to where I rented my apartment, so I just needed to face my parents first before bringing in my baby. I boarded a bus from Bayelsa back to Anambra. I was afraid and uncertain, but I knew I needed to do this. I was ready. I got to my house and my parents were not around as usual, so they had gone back to their normal life. I checked into a hotel so I could come around the next day. I also went to check on the father of my child, but I couldn't go in. I just watched their house from a distance. Maybe he's in school now, year 3 or so. I went back to my hotel and the next day I went to check on my parents and they still weren't there. I checked on the third day, and which was Saturday, and they were finally around. I couldn't even breathe very well, but I just needed to encourage myself. I knocked and someone opened the door. I introduced myself as the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Ogechima. She looked shocked because maybe she knew I was missing. She quickly ran upstairs and called my parents. I was so happy they were still alive because for the last 2 days I didn't see them. I had thought of so many things. My mom came out to confirm if what she heard was true. This woman literally broke down. She hugged me and took me upstairs. My father was dumbfounded. He was so surprised. My mother was just praising God. I knew I should be happy, but I still had the bigger story to tell. My dad locked the room and hugged me first, then told everyone to sit down. Then he asked what happened because they had looked for me everywhere they could. Well, I had prepared myself enough to be swayed and not to be swayed, and I had zeroed my mind to whatever the outcome might be. I told them that when I found out I was pregnant, I couldn't bear the shame of letting everyone down and getting scolded by them. I did not even finish what I was narrating and my father got angry. What are you saying? So you not only left us devastated, searching everywhere for you, but you also got pregnant? So all these years you left us feeling like something more dangerous happened to you. You are so spoiled and you feel you can just wake up one morning and do whatever you like. Didn't you think about what we went through looking for you? You think you're smart enough to make such decisions? Questions upon questions were flying here and there. My mom was just begging him to calm down. She succeeded in taking him out of the room and locked me inside. Maybe they were feeling I would run again, which obviously I would because my child is waiting for me. She's my everything. My mom called all my siblings and they said they would be coming the next day, being Sunday. I knew my parents wouldn't take this well because how can a pastor's child be pregnant? I called my friend and told him I would take more time before I returned, that I couldn't leave the house for now. The next day came and after service all my siblings arrived from far and near. They all came into the room and only my sister, the second child, hugged me and asked if I was fine. That sister, Amaka, was not really close to my family because she had always disagreed with most of their ways. I hated her then because she was always not happy with my parents and they would end up shouting at each other. I kept on telling myself, how can you hate your parents who always love and care for you? Well, now I understand more. Just follow every instruction they give you and you'll be loved. I was shocked she hugged me because we were never close. We all sat down and they asked me to start explaining. I gave them the information I wanted to share. They kept asking who the father was and I told them I couldn't mention his name for now. I wasn't sure how they would handle it. My dad was furious, saying, "Do you want to spoil everything I've built for years? Have you ever lacked anything? What did the boy promise you that I haven't given to you?" My parents had the right to be angry. The funny thing is, none of my siblings were talking. These are all grown men, married men and women. Why can't you all say what's on your mind in front of our dad? No matter how caring my dad is, I knew the only thing my siblings ever did was obey instruction, even at their age. My mom then spoke and said, "Let's look for a way to handle this, please. The deed is done. Let's find a solution." Now we are going somewhere, I said in my mind. I wanted to know what they would conclude. They asked about my child and I said she's fine with my friend in Bayelsa. My siblings said the solution was for me, for one of them to take the child so everything could go back to normal or take her to an orphanage. I said to myself, I didn't come here for you guys to decide where my child will be. I can't stay away from my blessing. My father said the only way I could stay with them in the house was to give out my child and go on with my life like nothing happened. At this point, I just realized how religious my father had been and how religion had eaten so deep into my family that all they could think about was their reputation. I was missing for over 2 years and I know I shouldn't be expecting a welcome party, but I should be the focus of this discussion. I should be asked how I managed to survive. I should be disciplined personally and allowed to accept my fate of showing the world that I left home because I was pregnant. But my people wanted me to pretend that I was missing and now I'm back. Well, I don't even know what to think. Amaka, the second child, stood up and said she would take me and my child with her. Nobody saw that coming, that she wasn't okay with the idea. I just wanted to hug this woman. I hated for always disagreeing with my parents. I never saw her own perspective of life until now. The room went silent. I began to speak and told my parents that I would rather live with my sister or go back to where I came from than leave my blessing. My lovely parents told me to go back to my room. My dad said he couldn't keep me and my child in that house. My mom came to the room and begged me to give out my child and stay with them, that she couldn't allow me to leave. I told her, the way you love and cherish me, that's how I love and cherish my own baby. My other siblings came to the room, hugged me, and left for their various homes while Amaka stayed back. The next day, being Monday, my sister Amaka and I left for Bayelsa and got to my place. She asked me how I survived everything and why I made such a decision to leave the house. I had never bonded with Amaka this much, but I was happy she was there. The doctor brought my baby and Amaka was so happy to see her. She thanked the doctor and said she would be in charge of me from now on. Everything was just happening like a dream. I kept thanking God, if this is a way of showing you forgiving me, then I'll remain grateful forever. The doctor wasn't happy I was leaving, but he was happy I had my sister with me. I packed all my things, ready to leave Bayelsa with my sister. I had never liked staying on my own anyway, just that I had to live with that because of my mistake. I had no time to think about my parents or anything. I was just looking at the future and not depriving myself of the joy I needed. We went back to Anambra and stayed there for 2 days. My dad left for ministry, but my mom said she would stay back with me before I left for Lagos with my sister. My mom loved me, I knew that very well, but she never loved my mistake, and I understand. She loaded my account with money, wished me well, and said she would always come to visit, that my dad loves me. I knew they loved me, but ministry comes first before their children. I'll think about that later, but for now, let's focus on my well being. Before we left, Amaka told my mom, it is a sin for you not to love your child and accept their mistakes. Nobody is perfect. If you can't face the truth, then what are you teaching your congregation? Tell your husband to do the right thing and not cover his shame. If he was around all the time with his child, this could have been avoided somehow. I won't watch you abandon my sister because of a mistake. That was what Amaka said, and we left for Lagos with my child blessing. I was too happy to even blame my parents. My sister had covered for them, and that was enough for me. I stayed with her for years and had my business all set up. I loved her kids like mine, and she took care of my daughter. Her husband was the best man ever. I never kept secrets to myself. We talked about everything and anything. She was just the best thing that happened to me. I later got married to my doctor friend. My child had two families, mine and my sister's family. She stayed more with my sister because of her children. They bonded well. My husband loved me with his life. I visit my parents once in a while and never got angry at them. I was just happy they gave birth to Amaka, my sister. She is my everything. I always talk about religion and family bond or love anytime I have the opportunity to speak. And I hope every parent out there gets to know that family should be above religion. Charity, they say, begins at home.